Hari Om. All my best wishes for this International Yoga Day. Keep connected and be healthy physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. Why this echo is coming? Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Svinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Why goes there? Sharing it, na? Share it. Hari Om. Since this is Yoga Day, I thought let us start with a salutation to the great master who wrote the Yoga Sutras, Mahamuni Patanjali. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarod tam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjalihi anatosmi. Pranjalihi, with folded hands, I bow down, I salute to that great sage Patanjali who removed apakarod. What all he removed? He removed the mala, the kashaya, the impurities. Impurities of what all? Three things. Chittasya malam apakarod. Kena yogena. One who removed the impurities in our mind through yoga. One who removed the impurities of our vani, of our speech, through the pada, because he is the one who wrote the Mahabhashya on the Panini Sutras. And Sharirasya malam vaidyakena apakarod. It is believed that Patanjali is none other than the great Charaka, who wrote Charaka Samhita. And therefore, he is the one who removed the Sharirasya mala, the impurities, the illness, the ailments of our body through Vaidyaka Shastra, through the science of medicine. So, to that great sage, I salute very humbly. Now, the points to be discussed in this 1 hour talk would be the origin and meaning of Omkara. Right from the Upanishads, we'll take it. And it is variously known as Udgita, Pranava. It is known as the Taraka Mantra and Akshara Brahma. Akshara, okay? Giramasmi ekam aksharam, Bhagavad Gita says, right? And now this is Omkara. And what is Yoga? Yoga is derived from the root Yuja. Yuja has 2 meanings. Normally we take Yuja is to connect, isn't it? Yuja is to join. That is one of the meanings. And when it is in the sense of joining, it is the joining of the body, mind, and intellect, as Gurudev would say, right? So this is the yoga, the joining, connecting. And Yujir Samadho, that is the meaning which is given by Patanjali. So absorbing, immersing. So that is another meaning. And Omkara will take right from the Upanishads, especially the 2 Upanishads, Chandogya and Mandukya. And then Yoga Sutras, of course, Bhagavad Gita. And because I come from Maharashtra and I have studied some Marathi Saint literature, I will be quoting here and there from Jnaneshwari and Tukaram and Ramdas, So Jnaneshwari most of the time. So this is the scope of this talk. Now, origin of Omkara, it is said, Omkarashchatha Shabdascha Dvavetau Brahmanaha Pura Mukhat Vinisrutau Katham Kantham Bitva Tasman Mangalikau Ubhau. The two words, the utterances, the Vyarhatis, they are called Vyarhatis or the utterances. Okay. So these are the two words, Atha and Om. These came out from the mouth of Sakshat Hiranyagarbha, the creator, the Vidhata, the Brahma. Kantham Bitva Viniryato. These were the first articulated sounds coming out from the creator. And because they were the first to come out, they are regarded as the most sacred. Tasman Mangalikau Ubhau. And we see that any of the Vedic Samhitas, any of the mantras, take for example any of the Bhashya, take Patanjali's this thing, Yoga Sutra, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, Athato Brahma Jidnyasa, Athato Dharma Jidnyasa. So they would start with Atha, it is Mangalya Suchaka. It is said, Shankara Bhashya, Shankaracharya, great Acharya says, when we hear the sound Atha, it is like a Veena Jhankara, as if Saraswati herself, is playing her lute, and therefore it is as sacred, as charming, as loving as the Veena Nada. So, and every Vedic mantra, we start with Om Sahana Vavatu. Gayatri mantra, every mantra, it starts with Omkara. So that is the sacredness attached to that. Now, Om is the symbol. It is a pratika. When we believe in the pratikopasana, Nahi pratikena saha is the sutra of the Brahma Sutras. Some people say, no, Brahman cannot have any pratika because Brahman is, like beyond everything, and therefore Brahman cannot be grasped by any objective entity, any commodity, anything, and therefore pratika won't work. But when we talk about pratikopasana, we naturally talk about the Apara Brahma or the Saguna, Savishesha Brahma. Will come across in the Yoga Sutras also, like Sampradnyata Samadhi and Asampradnyata Samadhi. They speak of Saguna Brahma and Nirguna, Nirvishesha Brahma. So Om is the symbol of Brahman. All the Shastras, all the Upanishads, they start with Omkara. And that is why Omkara is very sacred. I mean, because it is sacred, it is chanted before every mantra. When we are studying Omkara, the topic is Omkara and Yoga, not Omkara in the Yoga, Omkara and Yoga. So what is Om? It's a word. Word carries some wisdom. There is a theory to that. And the word could be put into practice. It could be employed as a mantra. And so it has an upasana. It has a practical side as well. So both these aspects of Omkara, we will try to see in this short period. So the worship or the practice, these are the two sides, and both are discussed, in all the theoretical books. But more so, we can say that the Upanishads would give you the word wisdom, the theory part of it, and Yoga Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, they would give you the practical aspect of it. So that is the little, what you can say, difference, in that. So worship or practice, and which is called as Omkara Sadhana or Pranavopasana, variously it is Udgitopasana, as Chandogya says. So what is the nature of this? We'll see from the Chandogya Upanishad to start with, the oldest one, which is profusely quoted by Adi Shankaracharya in his Brahma Sutra Bhashya. So it starts with the Udgitopasana. Chandogya Upanishad starts with the very first chapter, it starts with the Omkara. It is said that Bhutanam Prithivi Rasaha. For all the beings, what is the rasa? Rasa here doesn't mean everywhere essence or sap, It has various meanings. In fact, the word yoga also has some 32 meanings. So contextually, you have to determine what is the correct meaning of the word in that particular prakarana, that particular context. So Bhutanam Prithvi Rasaha, Prithvi, the earth, is the substratum, is the adhara, is the abode for all the beings to stay on. What is the adhara for Prithvi? What is just still subtler than Prithvi? It is apaha. So Prithivyaha Rasaha Kim apaha. This is going in the line of the Pancha Mahabhutas from gross to the subtle. Here only. From apa, we grow vegetation. So apam oshadhayaha rasaha. Oshadhis are meant for whom? Oshadhi is not just medicine. Oshadhi is any vegetation which grows. Okay, so there are like 2-3 types, Oshadhi and Vanaspati. Oshadhi is that which is once it is harvested, it doesn't grow again, like a banana, like a plantain tree. And as against that, Vanaspati is a huge tree like mango, like jackfruit and all. Every now and then, every season, there will be fruits. So that is Oshadhi. Even the rice grain, the wheat, these crops are Oshadhi for that matter, because once we cut, you have to sow the seeds again. Okay. So Oshadhinam rasaha apaha and Oshadhinam purushaha. Oshadhis are there meant for whom? For Purusha. Purusha is not just man, it's a human species. So the feminist people should not, raise their eyebrows. Why Purusha and not Stri? It's not like that. So human race. So human being is the essence of all the Oshadhis. What distinguishes a human being from the other human beings? That is his speech. So Purushasya Vak, Vani, that is the rasa. That is the distinguishing factor of the human species. Because articulated sound, the birds also chirp, the animals also make sound, but that is not understood by us, that is not realized by us, right? So Purushasya Vagrasaha, in Vak, what is so spatial, what is so subtle in the Vani, that is rich. That is the Richas of the Rigveda. And subtler than the Ruchas are the Samans. Ruchaha Samaha, Sama Rasaha. And of Samana, of Saman, what is the rasa? All the Samans put together, it is Omkara. Omkara comes here as Ashtamaha. Ashtamaha, Pararghyaha, we'll see that. It comes in the 8th line, but Omkara becomes the substratum for all the things which are described above it. Of Saman, of Rich, of Vak, of Purusha, of Oshadhi, of water, of Prithvi, and of the Prithvi. Last is Prithvi. So this is the ascent, of Omkara. Omkara is the Sara, the essence of everything. If everything you have to combine and express only in one letter, one word, it is Omkara. That is the greatness of. Now, Sa Esha Rasanam Rasattamaha. Rasanam Rasattamaha. Tama is a superlative degree. Superlative. Rasattaraha would have been comparative. Tama gives you superlative degree. Rasanam Rasattamaha. Paramaha, supreme. Pararghyaha. Pararghyaha, argha, that is the mulya, that is the value. It is invaluable. Okay. Ashtamaha, I told you just now, it is Ashtama Yad Udgithaha. Here comes the word Udgitha for the first time for Omkara. So it is the quintessence of the essence. It represents everything. It deserves the highest place. It is the object of meditation. Om is the expression of ascent, anudnya, and prosperity, samruddhi. That is what Chandogya says later on. Now, Omkara is called Udgitha. If you split the word Ud plus Githa, Githa is from root Gai, Gayati, is to sing or to recite, to chant. So Gita, this becomes a past passive participle, anishtanta rupa grammatically. That ta becomes tha, okay? Udgita, ut is uchchaihi. And one who sings that loudly, proclaims it loudly, that priest is called Udgata. You know, there are 4 Vedas, and 4 priests of the 4 Vedas have different roles. They have different names. For the Rig Veda, it is the Hota. For Yajurveda, Adhvaryu. For Samaveda, it is Udgata. And for Atharva Veda, it is Brahma, the overall supervisor. So Ut always gives you an upward direction. Like we have the words Uddhar Karna, Uddhar, hold up, okay? Then Utkarsha, drag upwards. Karsha, to drag, to pull upwards. Utkarsha, Unmukha, Unmukha, you know, your face turned to sky, Unmukha. So Ud always gives you that upward direction, and this is not just a physical ascent, this is a spiritual ascent. So going up is not just climbing the ladder and going to the 3rd floor from the 2nd, but it is climbing up the ladder of spirituality. So Om ityetad aksharam udgitham upasita. So the syllable Om is the most appropriate name to be pondered upon, and it is the most appropriate symbol for the Supreme Self. It symbolizes samriddhi, ascent, prosperity, development, increase, etc. So naturally, one who meditates on Omkara, he also gets all these things: prosperity, increase in his wealth, material wealth, physical wealth, or spiritual wealth, development. He develops to a great extent. So he can become prosperous, and then he can become a donor, because only that person can give who has ample, right? And therefore, once he becomes prosperous, he can become a donor. So Omkara is here given as an upasana, Udgita upasana, for the development, for the prosperity or samriddhi as such. One should recite Om and should sing aloud Om, because Ut gives you, I mean, you can do the Manasa Japa, that is okay. But when you are reciting Omkara, it has to be aloud, because Ut means the upward and Uchchaihi. And therefore you have to sing it, you have to chant it aloud. And then Chandogya says, as a lump of clay is destroyed when it is strike against, stricken against a hard rock. Similarly, all our papas get, disintegrated. They get removed. They perish when they hit the Omkara Rupi solid rock. Yatha Ashmanam Akhanam. Akhana is very hard. Akhana. Ashma is rock. Okay, stone, rock. So Yatha Ashmanam Akhanam Ritva. Ru Gatavu. So Ru is Gatva. Ritva is Gatva. When this Loshtadikam, the lump of clay, etc. Loshta, Maticha Dhekul in Marathi. Maticha Dhekul. Loshta Ityadikam, the lump of clay, ball of clay. If you throw it against a hard rock, it's going to be in pieces. Similarly, all our papas get scattered into pieces. They get perished once they hit the hard rock of Omkara. So Vidvamsate. So that was in the Chandogya, briefly, of course. And then we come to Mandukya. And Mandukya, very small Upanishad, but Gaudapadacharya, the Paramaguru of Adi Shankaracharya, has written entire Karikas, Mandukya Karikas, Gaudapada Karika. And especially the first Prakarana, Agama Prakarana, is all based on the Omkara. So I can't go into all those details, but I will deal with the Trimatra Omkara and the Amatra Omkara. So Mandukya is the first Upanishad which, critically, analytically deliberates on the Omkara, syllable by syllable. Omkara is not a monosyllable. It is a combination of 3 syllabic portions, Akara, Ukara, Makara. And therefore, this Omkara, syllabic portion wise, Mandukya is going to analyze. Now here the three syllabic portions, the akara, ukara, makara, or collectively, they can represent the apara Brahma or the saguna Brahma, and the turiya, the nada, will represent the Parabrahma. So that we are seeing throughout this presentation. So it is only the turiya. Turiya is the chaturtha, fourth. Prathama, dvitiya, tritiya, and chaturtha, for that another name is there in Sanskrit. It is like ordinal and cardinal numbers, so it is turiya. So turiya represents Parabrahma, which is bodiless. Now let us see this chart. This is a all-comprehensive chart. You might have had this earlier also. Soyam Atma Chatushpat. This Atma is Chatushpat, having 4 quarters, 4 feet, having 4 phases. Now here we are seeing only 3, Akara, Ukara, Makara. Then what is the Chaturtha? That is the Turiya, which is bodiless. And here we are discussing what is the Akshara, the syllabic portion, what is its Devata in the Vyashti and the Samashti, what is the Pradnya, of the human being during that, during the meditation of that letter, which state of his life it occurs, the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, the Avastha, then which Sharira, the Sthula, Sukshma, Karana Sharira, which Koshas, we have the Panchakosha theory from Taittiriya, so from Annamaya to Anandamaya, which all Koshas, each letter represents what is the type of Tripti we get, and what are the Mukhas through which, what are the outlets, Mukha, literally the mouth, but what are the outlets through which we can have the bhoga and we can have the trupti. So these are the various things under which the akara, ukara, makara can be had, a very nice, on one slide also, we can dwell upon for half an hour, but I will quickly go through that. So the very first letter, akara, this is the gist of Mandukya, I can say. This one slide could be a gist of Mandukya Upanishad. So, and few more Vedantic texts, what is not in Mandukya, that also I have added, like Samashti, the Virat, Hiranyagarbha, etc. I have added here. So, Akara, you take the first letter of Akara. Akaro vai Vishnu, they call it. Akara stands for Vishnu. So, Akara is Vishwa, it is called Vishwa, and the Sthana is the right Akshi, the right Akshi. It is the Sthula Sharira. And whenever there are 3 things, we relate it to the 3 Vedas. Whenever there are 4 things, we relate it to the 4 Vedas. When Akara, Ukara, Makara, only 3 are referred to, they refer to Rug, Yajus, Sama. So I didn't write there. Akara represents Rigveda, Ukara represents Yajurveda, and Makara represents the Sama Veda. Atharva Veda is not considered in the Vedatrayi. The Sthula Sharira, and the 4 things are there, and our Vani, our speech, it is analyzed as having 4 parts. Vaikhari is the hard articulated sound which I am uttering and you are all listening. That is the Vaikhari. Then comes the Madhyama, then Pashyanti, which sees but it is not articulated, and Para, there is no sound, soundless. So Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. So from the Akara to Makara, we go from Vaikhari to Para. So 4 things, and these 4 Vach also are classified under that. Annamaya Kosha, the grossest, the Sthulatam. And this here, while giving the Taittiriya Bhashya as well as the Brahma Sutra Anandamaya Adhikarana Bhashya, Acharya, while deliberating on the Panchakoshas, he gives a very nice Nyaya. Nyaya is a worldly maxim, something like a Vakprachara. In Marathi we called Mhan, Mani Sarkha Kahitari ahe. But it emerges out of the experiential learning. In today's psychological language, it's experiential learning. The thing is, when we are When we want to know something deeper, when something subtler, we can't directly go to the core and grab it. What we do? Normally, we do the superficial things first, the periphery, We take a round, we just stroll around the periphery. Then slowly, if there is any gate, then we'll peep inside. Then still inner, then still inner. So entire process of knowing, of learning, of knowledge, I should say, is from the sthula to sukshma, from annamaya to anandamaya. If we want to do Vedanta, like at the very outset, we can't start with Brahma Sutra, is it not? So we'll start with the Prakarana Granthas, some stotras, right? And then we'll go slowly to the Gita Bhashya or the Upanishad Bhashya. So it is not that at the first attempt we'll go to the deepest core. So Annamaya gives you the outermost sheath, outermost core. And this is the Jagrada Avastha, where all our 19 outlets are ready to grab and grasp and perceive and apprehend whatever lies around us. So these 19 are the Panchakarmendriyas, Panchajnanendriyas, Panchapranas, and Manabuddhi Chitta Ahankara Antahkarana Chatushtaya. Basically, in the Jagrada Avastha as well as in the Swapna Avastha, both these are active. In the Swapna Avastha, it is the Sukshma Bhava, therefore Sukshma Sharira. In the Jagrada Avastha, it is Sthula Sharira, so the outer limbs, In the Swapna Avastha, we see our mental eyes with our mental eyes, we eat with our mental jivha, we test it, nice gulab jamun and all that. But na tatra ratha na ratha yogaha. When you wake up, Chandogya says, I have been traveling in the ratha, going here and going there. When I wake up on the bed, I find myself. And there is no ratha, there is nothing, there is no gulab jam, there is nothing. I am on my bed only. So that is all swapna. And therefore, Gaudapada Acharya calls it as Vaitathya Prakarana, right? So this is Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya Kosha for the Sukshma Sharira. Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha, which is also called as Sutratma. Hiranyagarbha is also known as Sutratma. So this is the Sutra Rupi Atma. There is something in the Sukshma form which is carried forward. Either it takes you to the Sushupti or it brings you back to the waking condition, Jagrada Avastha. So the three koshas, they comprise of the Sukshma Sharira, and this is Madhyama Vak. Then we come to the Makara, which is Pradnya, and the Samashti Rupa is Ishvara. Then Ghana Pradnya, Bahish Pradnya, Antah Pradnya, and Ghana Pradnya. Akshi, Manas, and Hridaya. Hridaya is the Sthana. Karana Sharira, causal body, and the Janma Janmantara Samskaras are piled up there, and they are carried when we take the next birth. And therefore, interestingly, in the 6th chapter, Dhaneshwar also comments on that, Dhaneshwar Maharaj, that suppose, of course, it comes from the Bhagavad Gita only. So if a person, passes away while his sadhana is half incomplete, does he have to do it from the scratch in the next birth? Never so. He starts from where he has left. And therefore, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Bhrashto Bhijayate. Is it not? So, Yoga Bhrashtaha, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Abhijayate. And from there, he starts his forward journey. So, this is Karana Sharira, the causal body, because all the vasanas, they stay there. Okay, Karana, they are the cause. And then this is Anandamaya Kosha, from Annamaya, we have ascended to Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and this Karana Sharira, because the Prajna doesn't, it is, the Prajna is there because the Chit alone continues to be there. But then we are so much in deep sleep that we don't remember what happened last night. So chit, consciousness, is still there, and therefore there is Ananda only, because chit is Satchidananda Rupa, and therefore Anandamaya. And Acharya Shankaracharya, when everybody else, stated that Anandamaya is Parabrahma, it is Acharya who first admitted as it is. He wrote the Paramparika traditional Bhashya, and then he gave his own opinion by saying Anandamaya is not Parabrahma. It is Ananda which is Parabrahma. Because the suffix mayat is attached to that, and mayat is vikararthe. Mayat gives you modifications. Mayat means vikara. If in the other four, the previous four koshas, mayat is vikarartha, then how come in the last kosha, some people said, no, we can take it as prachurya. No, not vikara. There is another meaning of the suffix prachurya. For that, Acharya very cleverly, he is a very good advocate. He puts forth his points very logically, very rationally. He says, in the first four cases, you treat this as vikara. How come in the fifth place, you treat it as prachurya? This is something like have a cake and eat it too. It is called ardha jaratiya nyaya, again a nyaya. A woman, at the same time, she cannot be a yuvati as well as an old lady. Either she is an old one or she is a young one. She can't be both. So mayat means either this or that. I mean, it can't have one time prachurya and one time vikara. It can't have like that. Okay. And therefore, Anandamaya is not Brahma, it is Ananda, because Raso Vaisaha. Taittiriya concludes Raso Vaisaha, isn't it? And therefore, so that is another thing, of course. But how these small things, they helped Acharya in building up his bhashya, which is very unique in its own place. So the chit continues there, and the first two akara and ukara, there are ekona vimshati mukha, but the last one there is only chin mukha, and therefore chit can recognize only Ananda and nothing else. And therefore there is no other bhoga, no, neither sthula nor sukshma, it is Anandamaya bhoga only. Now we come to Yoga Sutras, and Yoga Sutras have like Tasya Vachakah Pranavaha, Yoga Sutra, and then Tajjapas Tadartha Bhavanam. These two sutras basically deal with the Omkara. What is Omkara? Omkara is Vachaka. Vachaka, that which expresses whom or what? Ishvara. So Ishvara becomes the expressed Vachya. So there is Vachya, Vachaka, Bhava, or Pratipadya, Pratipadaka, Bhava in Ishvara and Omkara. Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. And then it is in the Vyasa Bhashya, it is written on Yoga Sutras. Vyasa Bhashya is the very wonderful Bhashya. He gives the example of Pradeepa Prakashavat. As the lamp, you are lighting a lamp and the light indicates the object. It is not that the object is created there. Does Omkara create Ishvara? No. Ishvara is there. Omkara indicates to Ishvara. The things are lying here somewhere in a dark corner of the room. You can't identify what is lying where. You light a lamp and then Pradeepa Prakashavat. That Prakasha indicates, oh, this thing is here and that thing is lying there. Similarly, Omkara indicates to Brahman. It doesn't create. There is no Janya Jannaka Bhava. There is Vachya Vachaka or Pratipadya Pratipadaka Bhava. So very nicely Vyasa Bhashya has explained it. And then Tajjapaha Tadartha Bhavanam. Japa of Omkara. Tajjapaha. Kasya Japaha? Pranavasya Japaha. And Pranavabhidheyasya Ishwarasya Bhavanam. Kasya Bhavanam? Ishwarasya Bhavanam. By doing the japa of Omkara, you are constantly remembering Ishvara. Bhavana in Ayurveda has a very different connotation. You know, when you do some in Marathi, I can explain it very nicely. एखाद्या मात्रेचे वळसे घालायचे, you know, चंदन उगाळायचं किंवा वळसे. So 2 times, 3 times, that is called bhavana. The more you do, the more thick the paste would become. The sandalwood, suppose you are rubbing. Only once you rub with little water, it will be like a liquid thing. You rub that chandana, the sandalwood, you know, again and again and again and again, and then it will give you a thick paste of chandana. So how much more bhavana you do for a matra, for an aushadhi, that much more effective it would be. So bhavana. So why I'm bringing that connotation here? Because Ishwarasya bhavana. It is not that one day I do the Onkara japa and remember Ishwara, my job is done for the whole life. You have to do it continuously. It is bhavana. It is abhyasa, doing the thing again and again and again. So Onkara is used for the dhyana, Ishvara pranidhana. And today morning we had, you know, like tapa and Ishvara pranidhana and all that. Onkaram bindu sanyuktam nityam dhyayanti yoginaha kamadam mokshadam chaiva onkaraya namo namaha. This is not in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, but this is normally people recite while doing the Onkara sadhana. So Onkara represents everything we saw in the Chandogya Upanishad, how it is the essence, the quintessence of all the essences, and therefore from it all the speech has emerged. Sarvavai vak Onkaro eva, says Mahabharata. So Onkara is very, very special. And the Yoga Sutras further say, Salambana, that is Saguna, Sampradnyata Samadhi, I just referred to it 5 minutes back. And this is like Anandamaya Brahma. What you get in the Sa Alambana and Sampradnyata Samadhi, where you know what you are doing, Sampradnyata, Samyak, Prakarshena, Jnatam, Sarvam, Sa avastha sampradnyata samadhi avastha. So this is like Anandamaya Brahma or Sopadika Brahma. As against that, the Niralamba, the Nirguna, Asampradnyata Samadhi, only Samskara Shesha. Samskara remains. It is Ananda Swarupa, not Anandamaya. It is Ananda Swarupa, and that represents the Nirupadika Brahma as against the Sopadika Brahma. And then Gaudapada Karika, it reads, Amatrascha Dvaitasyopasamashivaha Onkaro vidite yena vidito yena samunir na itaro janaha. One who has realized Onkaraha viditaha yena. One who has understood, realized the true purport of Onkara, he alone is the Muni, not any other person. Samunihi na itaro janaha. Munih kasmat mananat munihi. One who thinks and ponders over a thing again and again is Muni. And therefore munehe yat tad maunam. And therefore maunam we say is not speaking anything. It literally means the dharma of Muni is mauna. And normally the Munis who are, you know, like filled in with substance, with knowledge, they won't blah, blah, blah. They won't speak. They are like, you know, Sampurna kumbho na karoti shabdam. It is like that. The completely filled vessel, it won't make much noise. It is only the half-filled vessel, you know. So completely full, you know, they don't need, that Kalidasa also says, Rikta sarvo bhavatihi laghuhu purnata gauravaya. Purnata gives you gaurava. Anyhow, so Onkaro vidito yena samunihi. And how is this Onkara? Amatrascha anantamatrascha. Now here lies a contradiction. If it is amatra, how can it be anantamatra? Matra is measure. Ma is to measure. Ma mimite is to measure. Matra is an instrument of measuring. Satrimatraha onkaraha akara ukara makara. And here we are talking about amatra onkara, and yet Acharya says here, Anantamatraha. It is something like, in Vishnu Sahasranama we say, Sahasramurtihi Amurtiman. He is Sahasramurti. At the same time, he is Amurtiman. Similarly, this Omkara, the last stage, Turiya, is Amatra as well as Anantamatra. And it is Dvaitasya Upashamaha Shivaha. It is Kalyanakaraka, Shiva, Mangala, and Dvaitasya Upashamaha. All the duality ceases to exist in this highest form of Omkara. So Trimatra Omkara is useful for the Upasana, for the joining, for the connecting with the Apara Brahma, whereas Amatra Omkara is absorbing and becoming that Ananda, which is Parabrahma Rupa. So Om without major is Akara, Ukara, Makara, etc. And Om is possessed of infinite dimensions. That is the Amatra Omkara. Now Bhagavad Gita, quickly, because I want to give some quotations from Jnaneshwari. So Pranava Sarva Vedeshu or Vedyam Pavitram Onkaraha Ruksama Yajurevacha. So there are so many quotations like this. Then Om Tatsariti Nirdeshaha Brahmanas Trivida Smritaha Om Ityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim, in the 8th chapter, which talks about eschatology. This is given. And in the 6th chapter, he gives, the Bhagavan gives you how a yogi should eat, what he should eat, where he should sit, what should be his asana, chaila, jina kushottaram, etc. Then natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantito. And then nachati swapna shilasya, nacha jagratasya. So many, there are all extremes are nullified here. There is a Madhyama Marga. There is a Madhyama Marga. This can give you the Madhyama Marga of the Buddhist as well. So Gita prescribes the asana, the ahara, the nidra for a yogi. And then it concludes, yuktahara viharasya. Yukta. What is proper, appropriate. The appropriate ahara, appropriate vihara, appropriate karmasu cheshta. That is the karma vyapara, kriya. And yukta swapna avabodhasya. And appropriate, proper amount of sleep and waking condition. If one practices yoga in this manner, yogo bhavati dukkha. Otherwise it is dukkhaja. It will cause dukkha. So that is from the Bhagavad Gita. And here Omkara, on this Vedyam Pavitram Omkaraha, Jnaneshwar Mauli, he talks about Pai Brahmavija Jahala Ankuru Ghoshadhvani Nadakaru Tayasega Bhuvana Omkaru Tohi Miga. So whatever comes out of that Omkara, the Akara, Ukara, Makara, and subsequently the entire speech, Tohi Miga, all that I am. So what I am, Para Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari, all this I am. So this, there is no Omkara in this verse. Vedyam Pavitram Omkara is there, but Para Pashyanti, there is no scope for this, but Jnaneshwar Mauli has brought that also here. The best thing of Jnaneshwari is, I may tell you, the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, nowhere, no other commentator, not even one Sanskrit commentator, Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Vallabhacharya, Abhinavagupta Padacharya, none of them have given anything regarding Hatha Yoga or Kundalini. It is only Jnaneshwar Mauli who gives the entire Kundalini Jagarana, the Hatha Yoga, in the 6th chapter commentary in Jnaneshwari. He in fact says, before he starts the first verse of 6th chapter, he says, तो गीते माझी षष्ठीचा, षष्ठी is the 6th chapter. प्रसंगू असे आयणीचा, it's a very clever part of Shri Krishna, on Bhagwan Shri Krishna, very clever on his part that he has brought this very dexterously introduced this chapter. जैसा क्षीरार्णवी अमृताचा निवाडू जाहला. As from the Kshirasagara Manthana, from the milky ocean, you churn out and take the amrita, the nectar. Similarly, the entire Taise Gitartha se Sara, the entire Gitartha could be summed up in this one chapter. What is it? Je Vivek Sindhu che Par. This is as if the bank of the ocean in the form of Vivek. Viveka Vairagya we know. Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. So Viveka Rupi Sindhoho Tataha Nama Shashti, the 6th chapter. Nana Yoga Vibhava Bhandara Ughadaleka. As if Bhagwan has opened up, disclosed Bhandara, a great kosha, treasure of Vibhava, of wealth, of yoga. Yoga Vibhava Bhandara Ughadaleka. And then he connects Kundalini with Omkara. Both have 3.5 matras. Omkara is 3.5 matras. The 3 matras and the Ardha matra is the laya, the nada you can say. And Kundalini, we'll see the next one. Nagini che pile, jaise Nagini che pile, कुंकुमे नहाले, वळण घेऊनी आले सेजे जैसे, तैसी ती मौटकी औटवळणी अधोमुख सर्पिणी निदेली असे. This is a serpent power. The Kundalini is the serpent power, the serpent energy, serpentine energy, you may call it. It is coiled up. How many coils? 3.5. 3.5 coils, and adhomukha sarpini, head down, it is sleeping as if in our Moola Bandha, in the Moola Bandha, near the Moola Bandha. And when there is a whole paper I have written on this. So when a person sits in Vajrasana and does all the bandhas, the Jalandhar, the Moola Bandha to start with, then the Uddiyana and the Jalandhara, and sits in Vajrasana or Siddhasana, Vajrasana basically Jnaneshwar Mauli has spoken about. Then the Apana Vayu he restrains by doing the Moola Bandha. He doesn't allow the Apana Vayu to go down. And the Uddiyana and Jalandhara Bandha restrain the Prana also. So there is a fight between Prana and Apana, and that gets blasted, and the Kundalini aroused. Kundalini is awakened. This is like awakening the dormant energy lying within us by something. There has to be a blast, a bomb blast. Then something creative comes up. So that, like that, this Kundalini comes up. And this is outer is outki, pauniki. So like 3.5, 3.5. And then motaki, chotishi, very small one, motaki outavadani adhomukha sarpini nideli ase, and it looks like a ring of molten gold. Jnaneshwar Mauli explains it like that. It looks like a molten gold ring, and with little reddish tinge on it. Jaise kunkume nahale. This is like a Nagini che pile. You know, a pillar, a small nagi, a naga, a serpent, a small baby of a serpent. And it is sleeping, but once it arouses, it goes on eating whatever comes its way. Whatever comes its way. And we'll see it later, how therefore the Hatha Yogis are always like Vapukrishatvam. They have to be like very thin, emaciated. Like Ravana did that, you know, the Tapashcharya. And it is said that he as if played on the veena comprised of his bones. It is not Kanda veena. It is not Tantri veena. It is his own bones, as if, you know, he was playing the veena. I mean, that was the Anahata Nada. He was worshipping with that, the Lord Mahesha. So this dormant energy, it is said in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Supta. This is Supta. All the while it is dormant, sleeping. Guru Prasadena Yada Jagarti. But when it gets aroused by Guru, we can't test it. We, under the supervision of Guru, tada sarvani padmani vidyante. All the padmas, all the chakras. This is Shat Chakra Bhedini or Sapta Chakra Bhedini. Sahasrara Chakra, many times it is not counted, and therefore Shat Chakra Bhedini. So this is done, you know, by the, and therefore this brings us to the chakras. Before that, in the 12th chapter and in the 9th chapter, I have quoted here from the 9th chapter perhaps. So this is Jnaneshwara again brings in Kundalini in the 9th chapter. Yeah, he describes this in a very metaphorical manner. Rupakatmaka, allegory. He praises the Siddhasana here. One has to secure Moolabandha, which is like a fort. All the metaphors now. The Moolabandha is like a fort. And for this, he has to build the thorny compound. The fort needs protection. The compound of Yama and Niyama. They have the fencing around it, thorny fencing. Then he will have some, you know, to protect the fort from inside. There are cannons. Tofa paijel. So what are the cannons? They are prana and apana, are the cannons in the fort, you know, all metaphor. And then Kundalini gets aroused. Then this dharana is like a horse rider, you know, whosoever comes on the way, dharana will banish, especially the 5 gross elements. And then the manabuddhya, chitta, hankara, etc. And then dhyana, as if, you know, plays on drums. Oh, here comes a victorious yogi who has conquered the kingdom. So with all its regalia, now this prana, I mean the Ashtanga yoga, basically, these are like the regalia, and here comes the yogi who is victorious, who is invincible, a king, as if, you know, this is the Raja Yoga. This is Raja Yogi for him. And then in the 6th chapter, he says, when I said that this is from the Sthula to Sukshma, we referred to from the Annamaya to Anandamaya. Swamiji was saying yesterday that, you know, when you come to this, like first you start with Sandhya Vandana, then Sandhya Gai Kamse, then you do only Gayatri Japa, then Gayatri is also set aside, and then you concentrate only on Om. So from Sthula to Sukshma, you graduate, right? So Maheshwara, the Yogishwara Mahesha, he is still the traveler on that path. What to talk about you and me? Pravrutti tarucha budi, disati nivrutti falachiya kodi, jiye margicha kapadi is traveler, yatrekaru, Maheshu azuni. Even Lord Mahesha is still a traveler on this path, and we are boasting, I have done this, I have done that. Even Maheshwara is still a traveler. He hasn't achieved what he wants to. So yogis can unify Ida and Pingala in the 12th chapter again, he says, and they combine it with Sushumna and make the Anahata sound. I mean, wherever there is no reference to the Omkara or no reference to Kundalini, 3 places, I mean, very clearly I have read about it in the 6th chapter, in the 9th chapter, in the 12th, and 1 place in the 18th. 4 times he has talked about Kundalini Jagarana. And what I feel is he belonged to the Natha Sampradaya. So in the morning, we were talking about Hatha Yoga coming from Matsyendranath, then Gorakshanatha. In the Gorakshanatha Parampara, we have Nivrittinatha, and Nivrittinatha is the Guru of Jnaneshwar Mauli. And therefore, this has come to him by Guru Parampara. This is not just a theoretical knowledge for him. He must have experienced it. Otherwise, the description is so realistic, we can visualize that. His words portray a visual in front of our mental eyes. It is not just a hearsay for him. It is his experience. That's what I feel. So now, with that, I read somewhere about, this Amrita Manthana. There can be an Amrita Manthana within us. And what is that? This is a symbolic churning, and churning within has to happen. Our Merudanda, the spinal cord, is the Manthanaka, the rod with which we churn. Okay, Ravi, Gusalnyachi Ravi, and the Sushumna is going through that cord. Okay, Ida and Pingala are the Rajjus. Ida and Pingala, the Surya Nadi and the Chandra Nadi and the Surya Nadi. Pingala is Surya Nadi. They are the Rajjus. And there is a fight between the Devas and Asuras were fighting for Amrita. Here there is a fight internally in our body, every day, every moment, between the Daivi Pravritti and the Asuri Pravritti, the Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat, as Bhagavad Gita puts it. So there is this constant fight going on. And in this fight, there has to emerge some halahala. That is the halahala of negativity. We call it toxins, which we throw out when we exhale. Exhale and inhale. Inhale all positivity and exhale all toxins. Detoxify your body with Omkara and meditation. And what we get is Amrita. And that is the eternal bliss and the peace. And therefore, when our mind is calm, Yatha Deepo Nivatastho Nengate Sa Upama Smrita. A lamp placed in a region, in a place where there are no fans, there is no wind, it will steadily light and spread the light all around. Yatha Deepaha Nivatastha Na Ingate. It doesn't quiver or shake even a little bit, right? That upama is given, and then prana flows freely through Sushumna. If there are blocks, then there are physiological and psychological problems, psychosomatic illnesses and all that. And therefore the body and mind have to be united and the chitta has to be calm. This is the state of equipoise. And that brought us to the chakras. Just quickly, right from Mooladhara chakra to Sahasrara chakra, and how they are related to the 5 gross elements, because our body is elemental body, Panchabhautika Sharira. And therefore, how these chakras, they are related to the Panchamahabhutas. The Mooladhara chakra is basically the earth principle. Swadhisthana is water. Manipura chakra is fire at our Nabhi. Then Anahata chakra is air. And Vishuddhi chakra is ether, and Ajna and Sahasrara chakra comprising of all the 5 or beyond the 5. You can Amatrascha, Anantamatrascha similarly. So this is the Adhyatma and Adhideva, Adhyatmika and Adhidaivika. So this is Adhidaivika, sorry, Adhibhautika. I wanted to say here Adhibhuta because all the Mahabhutas are referred to. Read it as Adhibhuta instead of Adhideva. So this is Adhyatma chakra within and representing the bhutas, the elements around us. And then there are syllables like Vakara, Lakara, etc. for the chakra meditation. Now, I have gathered some of this information from my elder sister, Dr. Geeta Dalal, who is a practicing doctor, and she runs yoga classes for last 35 years. So Akara Dhyana is useful for Mooladhara chakra, the Swadhisthana chakra, basically the Janana Kriya. And therefore the constipation problem, PCO, she has experimented on this, being a medical practitioner as well. And PCOD problem nowadays, adrenal gland, and steroids generation, etc. So only in the Omkara only concentrate on Akara. Then for these chakras, Ukara, and for the Ajna chakra and Vishuddhi chakra, it is Makara. So Ukara Dhyana for Manipura, Anahata, basically the Hridaya Kriya, the respiration, circulation, etc. Combination of A and U. And especially during the pandemic, she exercised this, she had this to a great extent to regulate your respiration and all. And Makara Dhyana for the Vishuddha chakra and Ajna chakra, thyroid, throat related diseases, sinus, and Ajna chakra pituitary glands, and connected with sensory organs, especially ear, eyes, and nose, ENT. And Sahasrara, Mastishka Kriya, right part of the brain, reservoir of this past, present, the memories, etc. And for stroke and paralysis also, this Makara Dhyana helps. And then we come to, I'm coming to the close of this presentation. Indriyanam manonatha, manonathastu marutaha, the panchapranaha, marutaha, the winds, and marutasya layaha nathaha. Marutasya nathaha layaha, sa layaha nadamashritah. This can take you to Laya Yoga, to Nada Yoga, to Yin Yoga, the Chinese. So many yogas are there. So step-by-step progression towards absorption. So from what we started from prosperity and ascent and utkarsha, samruddhi to Laya. So this is the process of the entire Onkara Upasana. Now, little bit more from the Marathi Saint literature. This Akara Charana Yugala Ukara Udara Vishala Makara Maha Mandala Mastakakare He Tini Ekavatale Tethe Shabda Brahma Kavalale Te Miya Shri Guru Krupe Namile Adi Bija. There is a very nice song by Lata Mangeshkar on this, and this Jnaneshwar Mauli calls as Ganesha Vidya. This is the Adi Bija. Omkara is the Adi Bija, which is the Ganesha Vidya. Jagadguru Tukaram Maharaj also says, Omkara Pradhana Rupa Ganesha se. He also echoes, because Jnane Deve Rachila Paya, Tuka Zhala se Kadasa. So, ओंकार प्रधान रूप गणेशाचे तीनही देवांचे जन्मस्थान अकार तो ब्रह्मा, उकार तो विष्णू, मकार महेश जाणियेला. In the Ekakshara Kosha, however, Akara stands for Vishnu. Jagadguru has given his interpretation. Aise tinhi dev jethoni utpanna toha gajanana maya bapa tuka mane aisi ahe vedavani pahavi purane vyasachiya. So from Vyasa it has come down. Vyasa, who was the compiler and analyzer of the Veda Samhitas, he is the same person who compiled and composed the Ashtadasha Mahapuranani. Ramdas Swami also says, Akara, Ukara, Makara, Ardha Matra se antara, that is 3.5 matra, Auta Matra tadanantara, Bhavanna Matrika. This is the Bija, Adi Bija. Giramasmi ekamaksharam. That is the ekakshara from which the entire speech emerged. Matruka are the letters or the alphabets, and the entire language emerged from this Onkara. So Onkara is the means as well as the goal. We are seeing from the Saguna Brahma to Nirguna Brahma. It is a means to achieve the Saguna Brahma, and it is the goal when we are concentrating on the Ananda Swarupa or the Parabrahma. And here we come across that Brahmari Pranayama. Morning we had just referred to that. It is like the humming sound of the bee, like in the Hatha Yoga. It is very important. And again, Dhyaneshwar Maharaj has a very beautiful bhajan on this. Runu zhunu re Brahmara, Sandi tu avaguna re Brahmara. All the avagunas, all the blemishes, all the kashayas, all the evil things, let them go out and exhaling, exhale all the negativities. So avaguna, all the avagunas, let them go out, and all the positive energy things should enter our body. Sadashivoktani sapada laksha layavadhanani vasanti loke nadanu samadhimekam manyamahe manyatamam layanam. Today Maitri, I think, referred to Yogataravali of Sri Shankaracharya. So this is from Yogataravali, or Teresa referred to. Yeah. So this is from Yogataravali. Sadashiva Shankara has given so many sapada laksha. Laksha 1 lakh, Sapada 1/4, 1.25 lakhs of avadhanani, laya avadhanani, Sadashivena uktani. But amongst all those hundreds and thousands and lakhs and numerous of these layers, what is manyamahe ekam layanam? That is nadanu. And this humming sound also is in a way a Nadanusandana. Even if we do Makara with the Nadanusandana, it helps a lot. So it is not only inhaling and exhaling, it is meditative also. I mean, Nadanusandhana is pranayama as well as dhyana. And Datta and Natha Sampradaya, especially Natha Sampradaya, Jnaneshwar belong to, and Datta Sampradaya also, they believe in the Nadanusandhana and they call it as Rajaguhya. A general note on Prapancha is, I being a student of Sanskrit language, especially of Nirukta, the etymological science, we have the habit of splitting the word into portions, syllabic portion, and take out some meaning, from each syllable. Pra, na, va. There are 3 letters. Pra stands for Prapancha. Na, nasti. Va is vaha, yushmakam vaha. Okay, so there is no prapancha for you once you start meditating on Onkar. That's a very funny etymology. Prakarshena navaha. Pra stands for prakarsha. Nava is nutana. Everybody's style of chanting, reciting is new, right? And therefore prakarshena navaha nutanaha iti pranavaha. But then prana could also stand for prana. And ava paschattat, ava purastat, ava uttarattat, ava dakshinattat. Ava is to protect. So pranan avati iti pranavaha. It could have been pranava, but there is, shortening of a syllable. Everything is possible. So shortening of a syllable, and instead of pranava, it became pranava. So this is Google Swami now, that Om is the sound of universal creation. Its frequency is 432 hertz, and it matches the things around in the world, NASA, something like that. So, I mean, this is subject to verification. This is Google Swami, that's why I said. So positive effects, I mean, how it helps us, in the beginning, I wished everybody, stay fit physically, psychologically, then emotionally and spiritually. How Omkara helps, Pranava helps us in all those levels. Physiologically, we already seen Akara, Ukara, Makara also. Emotional, it lowers the palpitation and respiration, rhythmic breathing and effortless breathing, etc. It relieves us from stress, anxiety. So emotional level, psychological level, it helps us to concentrate more, and ultimately it leads us to the eternal bliss, the awareness, the blissful awareness, and peace. Bliss brings you peace, and therefore this is very, very essential. This is a short bibliography I can share with you if you want to, and I would like to end with what I wanted to say. Hatha yogi, how they are normally. Vapukrishatvam, vadane prasannata. Vapukrisha, very thin, okay? But vadane prasannata, nada sputatvam. Nada is very clear. Nayane sunirmale, full of compassion and love and empathy for the entire world. Arogata, they don't suffer from any diseases. Bindu jayaha, nada bindu jayaha. Agni deepanam, nadi vishuddhi, 72,000 nadis. 3 are Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. We know only 3. There are 72,000, a network complete. And nadi vishuddhi, these are the lakshanas of a Hatha yogi. Hatha siddhi lakshanam. So again, I wish you all a very happy and healthy life, physically, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.